See which day will be the hottest of the heat wave. Have high temps in the 90s throughout the week. Look at all the heat alerts in place across the upper Midwest, including us in Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Going through 9 p.m. Tuesday, we have these heat alerts in place. We have a heat advisory for locations in this peach color, and then the hot pink is where we have the extreme heat warning. This is across the metro, sometimes the urban heat island. You get the warmer temps here in those regions, and then further up to the north, usually just not as used to the heat, this type of heat further up to the north underneath that warning. These areas are where your heat indices are going to be either in the upper 90s or around 100. That feels like temp. Right now we're at 90 in the Twin Cities. Feels like temp is 95. Air temp tomorrow. Forecast to hit 95 with sun, rain free, with the feels like temp again getting close to 100. We'll take a look at the...
Not just for today, not just for tomorrow, but for 3 days.
I wish I could sleep through the week. I'm pregnant, but
yeah.
I mean, it's just hot. Highs in the 90s.
Yeah.
This is a long stretch of days. I'll have to dig into the data. I mean, when was the last time we had highs in the 90s for this long? And then that's the air temp.
And even if you start with decent energy, by the end of the day, even if you're not out there all day, it impacts you.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to move any outdoor impacts really throughout the 24-hour period. And then the fact that we have such an extended time frame here where we are dealing with heat throughout the week pretty much, you know, kind of has a compounding effect as well. Peak heat Monday, Tuesday. But we're still just talking highs going from mid to low 90s by the end of the week. And if you're hoping for some rain, it doesn't look great for that either. We continue with this dry weather streak as well. Temps have hit 90 here in the Twin Cities, 90 degrees here. St. Cloud, Brainerd, Alexandria, 92 as we look out to Grand Rapids. Even seeing those 90s up to the northwest. Close enough. Western Wisconsin 89, 88 as we look out to Hayward. And then here are those dew points. Anytime we're around 70, especially for us here in Minnesota, you really feel that humidity level, and we're pretty close to that. And that does make your feels like temp come in the mid 90s in the Twin Cities. We have feels like temps registering of 100 in Willmar, also as we look out to Fargo, and it feels like the 90s for almost everyone in Minnesota and western Wisconsin right now. Now our overnight lows forecast to drop down to the low 70s here in the Twin Cities, or even just around 70 for locations to the northwest of the metro area, with highs tomorrow making their way into the mid 90s, almost 10 degrees above average. 95 here in the metro, 95 also for Hinckley, 94 as we look out to the Twin Cities. So this is heat impacts for everyone in Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Here's your dew point tracker. Last heat wave, we were kind of off the charts with like 75 dew points. We're still pretty close. We're at 70. Very humid, feeling close to swampy today. And we ride that very humid category as we go throughout the next couple of days. So when it comes to your feels like temp, it will feel like 100 tomorrow. Feeling pretty close to 100, maybe the upper 90s. We call it sweltering as we go into Tuesday. Your heat indices up Sunday, Monday, Tuesday in the upper 90s, close to 100. We have next weather alerts going through Tuesday. We have those heat alerts going through Tuesday, but it's very possible that could get extended. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, it's not much of a relief with feels like temps in the low 90s and air temps.
Yeah, normally you would have some sort of break in the action, you know, some storms and then cooler air.
Yeah, no, this is a strong heat setup over us.
All right,
Again, out in Vegas, I've been to that tournament out there. You think it's hot here, go to the Vegas summer tournament and walk out. my cell phone shut down because of the heat when I was walking out. Yeah, but they'll be playing all week. Lynx play again tomorrow night as well.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Maxie. Okay, Lisa, so it could be worse is what he's saying. All right, thanks, Lisa. We appreciate you joining.
Could reach 100 degrees coming up tomorrow. Look at the heat alerts in place for Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Extreme heat warning in place for northern Minnesota, including the metro area. Looking at feels like temps up to 100, maybe even a couple degrees higher. This is a heat advisory. You're still looking at the upper 90s, close to to 100 for feels like temps in these locations. But get this, look at how long it lasts. These alerts go through 9 p.m. Tuesday, and it's possible we could tack more days onto this heat wave. Here's the forecast for tomorrow in the Twin Cities. Sunshine, 95 your high. Again, your feels like temp looking to get close to 100. So that's why we have the next weather alert in place through Tuesday. The extreme heat dealing with humidity and warm lows. Not only that, we have a pretty dry forecast too. I'll explain when we start to see the peak of the heat
Every day this week, so they don't end up kind of.
It's not just on her now. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to have to really water them, like keep them going, put a note.
And maybe even moving them around a little bit out of the direct sunlight,
Yeah,
which,
that would help.
is a bigger deal this week because it sounds like we're not going to have any real rain in the forecast.
Like we're basically pulling the preset through Tuesday, but it is possible that could be extended. And either way, it's still going to be, highs in the low 90s throughout the rest of the week. Still very hot. Peak heating coming up Tuesday. Monday's not too far off though. Low temps in the 70s, so want to keep that in mind too, with sunshine, humidity, and like I said, those dry weather conditions. We just added another precipitation chance to the 7-day forecast, but it's at the tail end. Temp right now, 84 here in the Twin Cities, 80 in Brainerd, 81 in Grand Rapids. Also, as we look up to Bemidji, temps in the 70s. You factor in this humidity where dew points are in the 70s now. Your dew point in the 70 makes the feels like temp close to 90 here in the metro area. Feels like temps in the mid 80s all the way up to the north. So we're feeling the heat already for the overnight temps, and our overnight lows are just dropping down to either the 60s or the 70s. It's pretty warm for overnight. 73 is your forecast low here in the Twin Cities, by the way. Normally we're at 66. Not much in the way of cloud cover either, so you're not going to have the shade to try to help you out. Tomorrow we keep with the sunshine. High temps tomorrow bumping into the mid 90s. And it's kind of wild looking at the map too. I mean, it's not just here in the Twin Cities. Normally we have those high temps here in the metro or further off to the south, to the southwest. No, this time highs in the mid 90s all the way up to the north, including looking out to western Wisconsin. Then you factor in the dew point. So dew point values forecast to be in the 60s, close to 70. We call it very humid there. And that makes your heat index for tomorrow peak close to 100. We hit that sweltering category. Now this is through the day tomorrow. So as we start to hit even midday lunchtime, heat index in the upper 90s, we keep with that. And then we head into 7 p.m. and we're still pretty much in the sweltering upper 90 heat index category tomorrow. So this is a long time frame that we'll be dealing with this heat for tomorrow, and the heat indices in the upper 90s close to 100 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, not falling too far, as you can see with your next 7-day forecast showing those highs in the 90s, lows. Right now the last of the 7-day forecast is at 89, but I mean, if our forecast verifies, that would be setting the stage to where we're already at like a 7-day streak. So that's kind of wild. And that's made me think, well, what about last year? I had to look this up. I don't remember, off the top of my head, but what was the longest 90+ degree day stretch last year? So how many days in a row did we hit 90 or more? Derek, I believe you guessed
B.
How do you do that? It was totally a guess too, wasn't it? I mean, this guy, yeah. I mean, he knows the weather questions because he has a weather background. But when it comes to this stuff, this is a, very good guess. Yep, that's the answer. We had 3 days. Now, we had more 90-degree days overall last year. But how many in a row? The answer is 3. It was July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We had 90, 91, and 93. I don't know. I kind of was thinking it was a little bit longer, but it's just that those days were just not in, consecutive days last year. So how many days overall, not in a row, have we had 90+ so far this year? The answer is 4. We averaged 13. We had 3 in June, and then I just updated July. We've had 2 because that counts today. 90 degrees for our high today. Average is 84. 75 is that was the morning low. So there's that warm morning low. Average is 66. Of course, we've been rain free. And then we're going to add more 90s to this string of 90-degree days because we have all this heat in play. And you can see where we have the heat alerts in place again through 9 p.m. Tuesday. It's possible it could get extended, though. That is a possibility. But we have the extreme heat warning for the metro, further to the north, advisory in the pink area. The reason for this is because the metro area, you have some more heat in the urban heat island area. And then up to the north, those temperatures are usually cooler on average compared to locations to the south. So they have a little bit of a lower threshold for the heat. But also the feels like temps are going to be up to 100, maybe even 101, 102 for a lot of these locations, and probably even the potential for the advisory area. So everyone dealing with those feels like temps in the triple digits. Right now, temps are in the 80s, air temps in the mid 80s, with our low temps tonight dropping down to the 60s and the 70s. 73 are low here in the Twin Cities, and then tomorrow forecasts have 95 and high temps even in the mid 90s further up to the north. You tack on this humidity with these dew points in the very humid category. Tomorrow feels like temps reach 90 by 11 a.m. and then reach the upper 90s lunchtime through the evening hours. Here's the reason why. We have high pressure in place. Jet stream all the way to the north, flooding all of this heat all the way up to the northern part of the country. This high pressure in place suppresses any thunderstorm activity. It pulls in that heat and it just kind of settles in all the way through Friday, Saturday, maybe trying to break them down. Right now it's a slow breakdown, but watching Sunday, and then we throw in that thunderstorm chance once we head into Sunday as well. There's been a small signal of